Acts, chapter 10. And there was a certain man in Caesarea, by name Cornelius, a centurion from a cohort that is called Italian, pious, and fearing God with all his house, also doing many kind acts to the people, and always imploring God. He saw in a vision openly, as it were, the 9th hour of the day, a messenger of God coming into him, and saying to him, Cornelius. And he, having looked earnestly on him, and becoming afraid, said, What is it, Lord? And he said to him, Your prayers and your kind acts came up for a memorial before God. And now send men to Joppa, and send for a certain one, Simon, who is surnamed Peter. This one lodges with a certain Simon, a tanner, whose house is by the sea. This one will speak to you what you must do. And when the messenger who is speaking to Cornelius went away, having called 2 of his servants and a pious soldier of those waiting on him continually, and having expounded all things to them, he sent them to Joppa. And on the next day, as these are proceeding on the way, and are drawing near to the city, Peter went up on the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. And he became very hungry, and wished to eat. And they, making ready, there fell on him a trance. And he beholds heaven opened, and a certain vessel descending to him, as a great sheet, bound at the 4 corners, and let down on the earth, in which were all the 4-footed beasts of the earth, and the wild beasts, and the creeping things, and the birds of the sky. And there came a voice to him, Having risen, Peter, slay and eat. And Peter said, Not so, Lord, because at no time did I eat anything common or unclean. And there is a voice again, a second time to him, What God cleansed, you do not declare common. And this was done 3 times, and again the vessel received up to heaven. And as Peter was perplexed in himself, what the vision that he saw might be, then behold, the men who had been sent from Cornelius, having made inquiry for the house of Simon, stood at the gate. And having called, they were asking if Simon, who is surnamed Peter, lodges here. And Peter, thinking about the vision, the Spirit said to him, Behold, 3 men seek you. But having risen, go down and go on with them, doubting nothing, because I have sent them. And Peter, having come down to the men who had been sent from Cornelius to him, said, Behold, I am he whom you seek. What is the cause for which you are present? And they said, Cornelius, a centurion, a man righteous and fearing God, well testified to also by all the nation of the Jews, was divinely warned by a holy messenger to send for you to his house, and to hear sayings from you. Having called them in, therefore, he lodged them. And on the next day Peter went forth with them, and certain of the brothers from Joppa went with him. And on the next day they entered into Caesarea, and Cornelius was waiting for them, having called together his relatives and near friends. And as it came that Peter entered in, Cornelius, having met him, having fallen at his feet, worshipped him. And Peter raised him, saying, Stand up, I am also a man myself. And talking with him, he went in, and finds many having come together. And he said to them, You know how it is unlawful for a man, a Jew, to keep company with, or to come to one of another race. But God showed to me to call no man common or unclean. Therefore also without contradicting I came, having been sent for. I ask therefore, for what matter you sent for me? And Cornelius said, 4 days ago until this hour I was fasting, and at the 9th hour praying in my house, and behold, a man stood before me in radiant clothing. And he said, Cornelius, your prayer was heard, and your kind acts were remembered before God. Send therefore to Joppa, and call for Simon, who is surnamed Peter. This one lodges in the house of Simon a tanner, by the sea, who, having come, will speak to you. At once, therefore, I sent to you. You also did well, having come. Now, therefore, we are all present before God, to hear all things that have been commanded you by God. And Peter, having opened his mouth, said, Of a truth, I perceive that God is not favoring by appearance, but in every nation he who is fearing him and is working righteousness is acceptable to him. The word that he sent to the sons of Israel, proclaiming good news, peace through Jesus Christ, this one is Lord of all. You have known the word that came throughout all Judea, having begun from Galilee after the immersion that John preached. Jesus, who is from Nazareth, how God anointed him with the Holy Spirit and power, who went through doing good and healing all those oppressed by the devil, because God was with him. And we are witnesses of all things that he did, both in the country of the Jews and in Jerusalem, whom they slew, having hanged him on a tree. This one God raised up on the third day, and gave him to become visible, not to all the people, but to witnesses, to those having been chosen before by God, to us who ate with him and drank with him after his rising out of the dead. And he commanded us to preach to the people and to fully testify that it is he who has been ordained judge of living and dead by God. To this one do all the prophets testify, that through his name everyone that is believing in him receives forgiveness of sins. While Peter is yet speaking these sayings, the Holy Spirit fell on all those hearing the word, and those of circumcision who were believing were astonished, as many as came with Peter, because the gift of the Holy Spirit has also been poured out on the nations. For they were hearing them speaking with tongues and magnifying God. Then Peter answered, Is anyone able to forbid the water, that these may not be immersed, who receive the Holy Spirit, even as us also? He commanded them to also be immersed in the name of the Lord. Then they implored him to remain certain days.